you're all alone, when you're surrounded by the people that you love the most, and you can't explain it 'cause they won't understand. It's not simple feelings, it's the human demands, and your heart starts.
Hello and welcome to France 24's music show. I'm Marjorie Hash, and our guest this week is singer-songwriter Amy Macdonald, who rose to fame 13 years ago with the pop-folk-filled album This Is the Life, which she'd written in her teenage bedroom. Since then, she's gone on to sell some 12 million records across the world, and this week she's releasing her 5th studio album, The Human Demands. Amy, thank you so much for joining us from your home in Glasgow. What's the mood like over in Scotland right now?
It's okay. We seem to be in an okay place, so I think that there seems to be cautious optimism from Nicola Sturgeon, so long may that continue.
Now, your new record tackles topics that affect all human beings, such as the pitfalls of love, depression and aging, but you're actually only 33. Surely that's not that old.
I don't for a minute think that I'm particularly old. It's more kind of my experience with the music industry. The industry is always kind of focused on the next new, young, kind of popular act. And I think when you've been in the industry since I was a teenager, like I have, and all the years in between, you start kind of feeling like you're part of the furniture. But I also think it's more to do with the point that I'm at in my life. When you hit your 30s, everything kind of changes because your friends are all either getting married or having children. You start to think about your parents getting a little bit older, and it feels like a bit of a shift in your own personal life. So I think that's where those ideas came from.
Well, how about we check out one of the tracks from your new record? Taken from Amy Macdonald's new album, The Human Demands. Amy, can you tell us a little bit about this choice of title?
The title, The Human Demands, just comes from basically all the pressures and demands that we put on ourselves. I feel like we spend so much time kind of obsessing about how we look, and we feel like we have to be perfect. I feel like we want replies to our emails instantly. We feel like we have to be available 24/7. And I think all of this is demanding. I think sometimes that we make life much harder for not only ourselves, but for each other. And if we were able to slow down a little bit and kind of start asking how each other are on a daily basis, I sometimes think the world would be a slightly nicer and easier place.
Now, the record was produced by Jim Abbiss, who's worked with the likes of British bands such as the Arctic Monkeys and Kasabian. And that said, there is a very North American flair to your new record, but also to the music videos. And there seems to be a little bit of nostalgia for the New York of the 1970s. Were you actually listening to loads of American 70s bands, or what inspired that?
I actually wasn't. I was inspired to write The Hudson through a story that my father told me of him and my mum visiting New York way back in the day before New York was really a tourist destination. And that's what gave me the kind of initial idea for that song. I think ultimately it's a song about how everything you do in life and every decision that you make in life might impact where you end up later on.
That's a lovely idea. Also a scary one. I also read that when you were teasing the arrival of your 5th album, many of your fans were expecting you to announce that you were having a baby. And now that's something I can't even imagine happening to a male artist of your age. How difficult is it for you to navigate these public and private expectations? And do you think this will one day stop for women?
It is strange, and women are undoubtedly still treated completely differently in this industry to men. I feel like women have to jump through way more hoops than their male counterparts. And it's great that people are talking about it now, but unfortunately, words don't really change anything. I think we need more action, and it's just the way that women are still treated differently. And people are aware of it now, but we kind of need people to start acting a bit differently to get out of it. But like you said, I can't really think of any male artists that any announcement that they've got, they constantly get asked if they're having a baby. It's just a bit strange.
Maybe that'll change that way. We'll have to try it out on the show at one point. You've also been super vocal about supporting all the people who work in the music industry and who've suffered job losses as a result of the global COVID-19 pandemic, roadies, technicians. How do you feel governments in the world could better support their artists? They generate so much money for the UK government in particular.
Yeah, I think ultimately people see artists and think that they'll be fine, and they probably will be, but it isn't about people like me or other artists. It's about the people who really are the backbone of the live music industry. Without these people, there wouldn't be concerts, there wouldn't be tours. And I think that they have been massively overlooked. I think that sometimes governments are a little bit naive, and they don't really think how many skilled people there are, and how many people it takes just to put on a gig. And especially in the UK where I am, there's millions of people who have just slipped through the cracks, who have been given no support. And these are people that are highly trained and highly skilled. They're not just doing random jobs, they're doing important jobs. And when we come out of this pandemic, which we will at some point, we're going to want to go to the theatre again. We're going to want to go to concerts again. But if we don't support those people that make sure those things happen, then we might not be able to.
You actually took part in a benefit concert in support of event staff last week, and I read that on your way you actually got mugged by a guy on a moped, which must have been pretty shocking, yet you were very badass, may I say, and still managed to make it to stage. How did you pull yourself together?
I think when things like that happen, it obviously catches you off guard and it leaves you a little bit shaken, which it did for me. But I was very much aware that that gig wasn't just about me. It was about all of the people that have kind of lost so much over this past year, and all of the people that work in live events. So I felt I just had to pull myself together and do it, because it's the right thing to do. And I'm so glad that I did. It was a really great night, and it kind of took my mind off the kind of rubbish day that I'd had prior to it. And I'm glad that it went down so well, and that we raised a lot of money for the people that need it most.
Well, that's super inspiring. We need to move on now to some music news. And how about we head to Binna first, where a collective of young girls stemming from the remote part of the country have brought a modern and garage rock tinted twist to traditional style music. They're called Star Féminine Band, and they sing in Bariba, Fon, but also Peul. Through their lyrics, the 7 members, who are aged 10 to 17, call for equality of the sexes, encourage women to educate themselves, and warn against female genital mutilation. Their first self-titled album is being released on French label Born Bad Records, and a documentary will soon come out as well. Let's check out one of their songs, Peba. Wants to watch their Star Féminine Band. Now, Amy, you were a teenager when your first record came out. How excited were you at the time? Do you remember? Because those girls are like 10 to 17.
Yeah, I was excited, but I was also extremely nervous. Basically, the album had consisted of my entire life's work, of songs that I'd written in my bedroom. So kind of finally getting to the point where they were going to be kind of available for anyone to hear, I felt a little bit exposed and a little bit worried about what would happen.
We're going to move on back to another teenage girl, this one a French-speaking one, and she is from Luxembourg. Her name is Sekarma, and she's only 18. She started off making punk music and busking when she was 14. She's inspired by artists like Björk, Sophie and Charlie XCX and has supported the likes of Milky Chance. Her first EP is out this month, so let's check out one of the tracks by this socially conscious teen.
I don't want to stand in this room full of noses and mirrors. I want to see the sea and the coast full of ducks. Don't want to stand in this room full of noses and mirrors. Stand in a harbor, stand in a tree. 3 ducks, a cat, green, red and blue. Green, red and blue, the wind blows. 3 ducks, a cat, green, red and blue. Green, red and blue, the wind blows into your hair, grows into your roots.
And that's it for this week's music show. The France 24 news is up in just a few minutes. Remember, you can keep in touch with us via our social media, Encore F24. And of course, catch up on all our latest culture news on our website. Amy Macdonald, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. And your new album, The Human Demands, is out now. We're going to play out the show with Australia's most famous rock band now, AC/DC, who are not back in black this time, but with a 17th studio album entitled Power Up. Now it marks the return of singer Brian Johnson, drummer Phil Rudd and bass player Cliff Williams. It's also the first record since the death of co-founder Malcolm Young 3 years ago and pays tribute to him and his brother Angus. Let's rock.